In the 19th century, a survey conducted in Britain found that, on average, each woman gave birth to 7 children during her lifetime. Nearly half of these children would die before reaching the age of 3, and nearly 1/3 of women would die during childbirth or due to complications arising from it. Modern women should feel very fortunate. Thanks to advancements in medical technology, the risks associated with childbirth have significantly decreased. Although childbirth can still cause considerable harm to a woman's body, the incidence of deaths directly caused by childbirth has notably declined compared to 200 years ago. More importantly, the popularization of modern contraceptive ideologies and methods in the 20th century has allowed many women to enjoy a pleasurable sexual life while avoiding the embarrassment of unintended pregnancies. However, these advancements didn't emerge out of nowhere. Humanity has traversed a long history of thousands of years in the pursuit of contraception. Today, let's explore the various inventive methods Europeans have used to prevent pregnancy. The earliest documented references to contraceptive methods date back to over 1800 BC, found in the Kahun Gynecological Papyrus, which is the oldest known medical text in Egyptian history. This document recorded ancient Egyptian contraceptive techniques, including the use of acacia gum. Ancient Egyptians mixed this gum with honey and applied it inside the female vagina to kill sperm. Recent research has confirmed that acacia gum does indeed have spermicidal properties. The papyrus also describes other contraceptive methods, such as applying the aforementioned gummy substance to the cervix or using burnt crocodile dung as a pessary placed at the entrance to the womb. Additionally, the ancient Egyptians believed that breastfeeding could effectively prevent pregnancy. In the Hebrew Bible's book of Genesis, it is mentioned that Onan, to avoid impregnating his deceased brother's wife Tamar, spilled his seed on the ground. This is one of the earliest records of coitus interruptus or withdrawal method, indicating that even in ancient times, it was understood that ejaculation outside the female body could prevent pregnancy. Some historians believe that coitus interruptus was the most effective method of contraception known in ancient times, as other methods were not as reliable. However, this method was seen as diminishing the sexual pleasure for men, which made it an unpopular choice among them. Compared to this, men were more inclined to endlessly seek ways to manipulate the female uterus and vagina. In ancient Greece, the philosopher Aristotle had his own insights on contraception. He suggested applying cedar oil to the cervix before intercourse. Aristotle might have thought that the smooth oil would prevent conception, and indeed this method could have been somewhat effective as oils can reduce sperm motility. In addition to various physical methods, Europeans also explored herbal remedies as contraceptive solutions. During the Middle Ages, there was detailed research into herbs. However, it was proven that herbs were not very effective for contraception. More often, they were used for post-coital abortion or induced abortion, which was obviously risky. Many times, the process of abortion could be fatal for women. After Christianity was established as the dominant faith in Europe, the exploration of contraception methods largely ceased. This was because Christianity strictly prohibited contraception and abortion, viewing them as grave sins. In 1484, Pope Innocent VIII authorized the Inquisition to trial and punish witches who assisted in abortions. Those found guilty faced the death penalty by burning. Contraception was also explicitly banned and written into the laws of various countries. Therefore, once married, European women were not allowed to use any contraceptive methods to prevent childbirth. For noble women, despite their wealth and higher social status compared to lower-class women, they were even less able to use contraception because of the added pressure to continue their family lineage. Even in modern times, as the Church's control over spiritual matters has waned, many people still oppose contraception on moral and ethical grounds. They argue that if sexual activity becomes purely for pleasure, it equates to promoting promiscuity in their view, which can disrupt public morals and potentially lead to the spread of sexually transmitted diseases. In such an unfavorable context, the development of contraceptive methods naturally progressed slowly. While Newton was discovering universal gravitation, Leibniz was inventing calculus, and Edmund Halley was accurately calculating the trajectories of comets. Humanity still knew little about how to prevent pregnancy in women. However, there was still a surviving group of women in Europe who could legally use contraception, or rather whose use of contraception was officially and socially ignored: prostitutes. The reason is simple. No man wanted to be informed by a prostitute that she was pregnant with his child, nor did any brothel keeper want to hear that an employee needed 10 months of paid maternity leave. This limited demand was not enough to motivate substantial time and resources to develop and improve effective and affordable contraceptive methods, but at least contraception did not come to a complete standstill. Prostitutes remained tight-lipped during inspections, but every brothel privately took measures to prevent pregnancy. In the 19th century, the sex industry was a legal industry in most European countries, and prostitutes were categorized into different tiers. There were well-known high-class courtesans, as well as ordinary brothel workers who were assigned numbers. Part-time prostitutes included performers on stage, waitresses in cafes and bars, among others. Regardless of their status, all these women had to make considerable efforts to avoid pregnancy to continue their professions without interruption. Spermicidal sponges were almost an essential contraceptive tool for prostitutes. By the 17th century, early microscopes had enabled the observation of sperm, and it was understood that these active tadpoles would die within a few hours to a few days if they did not unite with an egg. Thus, killing these sperm was considered the most effective form of contraception. Vinegar, known for its disinfectant properties, was used by prostitutes who soaked a small sponge in it, then placed it inside the vagina before engaging in sexual activity with a client. Afterward, the sponge was removed, cleaned, dried, and reused. While vinegar did not cause a stinging sensation, it undoubtedly disrupted the vaginal flora's pH balance. For added precaution, after removing the spermicidal sponge, prostitutes often performed a vaginal douche. In the 19th century, a variety of syringes were available, and Europeans who had a penchant for enemas were adept at manufacturing such devices. Today, we know that such douching is not vagina-friendly and may even promote vaginal infections. Condoms were proven to be one of the most effective contraceptive methods of the time. The concept of covering the penis with a protective sheath was not new, but early condoms were most commonly made from materials like cotton and linen, which were uncomfortable due to their rough texture and quickly fell out of use. Later, a more comfortable material was found: sheep intestine. Sheep intestine condoms represented a significant improvement in comfort and were much more effective at preventing pregnancy than previous methods. However, their main drawback was the cost. They were expensive, and prostitutes could not afford them, nor could they compel their clients to use them unless the clients were wealthy enough to buy and willing to use them. The 18th century adventurer Casanova recorded in his diary the use of sheep intestine condoms in brothels, advocating that gentlemen should use them to effectively prevent syphilis. After use, these condoms required meticulous cleaning and drying. For instance, a glass object once mistaken for a phallic symbol was actually a device for drying condoms. Cleaned condoms were placed on it to dry without warping. Of course, some prostitutes did not become pregnant after sexual encounters, which today might suggest infertility. However, there is a more tragic story behind this. Typically, there are 3 reasons why prostitutes might not become pregnant. First, they had not yet reached menarche. Second, they suffered from chronic malnutrition due to poverty, leading to amenorrhea, such as lower-class women forced into prostitution for survival. Third, they had contracted various uterine and gynecological diseases from long-term prostitution, or a catastrophic abortion had rendered them infertile. European contraception ideologies began to shift in the mid-19th century. with Charles Knowlton dubbed the father of contraception, playing a pivotal role. In 1832, he published a work titled The Fruits of Philosophy. In this book, he first argued that humans should not reproduce indiscriminately. At that time, the global population was 1 billion, and he predicted it would reach 8 billion in 100 years. 200 years later, we have indeed reached Knowlton's projection, proving his concerns were valid. In his book, he also introduced basic reproductive knowledge, the anatomy of male and female genitalia, and methods of contraception. The publication caused a sensation and quickly became a scandal. The local clergy in Knowlton's town were shocked by his statements, and he soon found himself in court. Ultimately, he was sentenced to 3 months of hard labor and fined. Knowlton's progressive thinking challenged the moral boundaries of his time in Europe, and it took another 100 years before contraception began to be normalized. In 1839, Charles Goodyear discovered the method for producing natural rubber, and in 1844, the Goodyear Company patented his vulcanization process of rubber, marking a pivotal change in the history of contraception. The first rubber condom was created in 1855, offering greater elasticity and durability compared to the earlier sheep intestine condoms. By the 1920s, rubber condoms began to be mass-produced industrially, which significantly reduced their prices, making them affordable consumer goods for the general public. The path to contraception has not been smooth sailing. Despite technological advancements, conservative and rigid ideologies often posed barriers. For instance, in the mid-19th century, the United States passed the Comstock Laws, which prohibited the distribution of contraceptive information and devices. In 1914, American activist Margaret Sanger began to widely disseminate birth control knowledge and established a birth control clinic in the U.S., which was shut down by authorities just 9 days later. Sanger was arrested and put on trial, but her efforts eventually sparked a nationwide birth control movement and garnered support from numerous donors. In 1921, she founded the American Birth Control League, which later became Planned Parenthood, dedicating her life to the legalization of contraception. In 1952, she became the president of the International Planned Parenthood Federation and is celebrated as the founder of the modern birth control movement.